If your bike has disc brakes, there's a simple mistake that most people make, and that is not bedding them in properly. This will result in noisier brakes, reduced consistency, control, stopping power, and shorten their life. But fear not, properly bedding in your disc brakes is actually pretty easy to do, and I'm going to show you how. This video is chaptered, so if you're in a rush and you quickly need to know how to do it, then you can skip forward to that point. But first, what I'm going to do is explain what bedding in is and why it's important. Bedding in involves transferring a layer of material off the brake pads onto the rotors, and this layer of material on the rotor improves the braking surface. And you can see it here. This is a rotor that's bedded in, and this is a rotor that's brand new. And if you look at the braking surface on the two, you can see the difference. If you skip the bedding in process and then brake really hard, your pads can overheat, and this causes them to glass over, making them much smoother. This will reduce the friction, so the braking power that they have, and it can also make them squeal too. A well-bedded in system results in brakes that don't have a sort of on-off feel, but much smoother modulation, and well, allows you to get all the benefits of hydraulic brakes. Other things it helps reduce are uneven pad wear, which can happen, and scoring on the brake rotor surface. And all in, it just helps your brakes stay quieter and just wear and last longer. How to bed them in? Well, if they're brand new, we can just crack on straight away. If they're dirty, then you'll have to clean them first. Just use some disc brake cleaner, and then we're going to go outside. You're going to want to find a quiet road or a car park or somewhere safe but flat ground. What we're then going to do is accelerate up to about 30 kilometers an hour and then apply the brakes. The front one first, followed by the rear, and we're going to apply them gradually so that we just slow down to a walking pace. You don't want to come to a complete halt, because what that can do is just apply a load of material unevenly distributed into one spot on the rotor surface. I'm going to repeat this 10 to 15 times. I'll show you. So each time you do that, it starts to build up more and more material on the rotor surface, and your braking should start to feel a bit more progressive and a bit stronger. It's actually pretty satisfying to do. It's next recommended that you do 3 to 4 harder stops from around 30 to 40 kilometers an hour. Again, not coming to a complete stop, but just clamping the brakes down a bit more, just to help seat the pads better within the caliper. After that, it's recommended you do 3 or 4 harder stops. So accelerate up to about 30 to 40 kilometers an hour and then press the brakes harder to come to a stop. But then don't leave the pads clamped on the rotor itself. After you've dragged the brakes several times and then done those harder stops, the brakes should be pretty hot and warm by this point, so just let them cool down naturally and you should be good to go. It's important not to let the brakes clamp onto the brakes at this point while they're hot, as that can damage them. So just don't let the pads clamp on and then you should be good to go. So top tips, don't touch your braking surfaces with your fingers. So ideally, wear some gloves, and that's because the oil from your skin can contaminate the braking surfaces and make them squeal. So you'll notice when I wasn't wearing gloves earlier, when I picked up the rotors, I was doing so from the spider and not like this, touching the braking bit. Overspray from cleaning products can also contaminate your rotors, and that's something that people aren't often aware of when they're cleaning their bike. So solutions are, you can either cover your rotors up, take the wheels out as you're cleaning the bike, clean them separately. Or if some cleaning products do get on there, you can always then just make sure you wash that off afterwards and decontaminate them last with some disc brake cleaner. The next thing is that different types of pads, so think either sintered or organic or metallic pads, actually exhibit slightly different chemistry. And so the material that they deposit down on the rotor is different. Pads and rotors should be paired. So if you change your brake pad material, then it's not going to work as well with your rotors if they were using a different one. So you should decontaminate your rotors and rebed them in. You can do this by sanding them down very slightly with a bit of wet and dry paper, and then decontaminating them further with some disc brake cleaner, such as this Ultimate one from Silka, and a microfiber cloth, and then repeat the bedding in process. If you do manage to contaminate your rotors or your pads, then you can clean them. So one of the things you can do with rotors is actually get a little bit of sandpaper and just take off the surface finish if they've become glassed over and glazed over. With the rotors, then the first thing I would do is to just suggest to get some disc brake cleaner. And the best way to do it is to use a microfiber cloth, spray onto the microfiber so you're not getting overspray, and then use that on the rotor. Now you can do this when it's on the bike, or you can do this like I'm doing on the bench. And it might be obvious, but if you're using a microfiber, use a clean one, otherwise you might be transferring oil and dirt off a dirty microfiber onto your brakes. One thing to be aware of, though, is that disc brake cleaners are not all equal. Something like this is nice because it's pH balanced and acid free, whereas some of them are pretty harsh chemicals. And I like to ceramic coat my bikes and to help keep them cleaner. And I've noticed that some disc brake cleaners that have used quite powerful solvents do start to take off the ceramic coat. Just a little thing, but yeah, hopefully you found this useful. And if you have and you'd like to support the channel, like, subscribe, all that jazz. Hopefully see you in the next one. Love you, bye.